I wanted to talk to you today about, I have a new blog post that's up, and it's about how to better understand yourself. 10 insightful journal prompts to start you on your journey. So, this is all fashioned from the idea of spiritual personality typing, which I'll talk to later on. And then it's based on the liberating lessons I learned to navigate my life tsunami, right? And I believe the core lesson really is to acknowledge that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the secondary lesson to understand is after you've understood that and acknowledged that, what are your intentions? What are your core desires? When you put all these things together, that's when you reach a self-understanding that's very unique to you, right? And I'm reading here because I don't want to forget what I'm saying, because I can be a little complicated about my bringing things in layers. So sometimes I layer all this stuff out and people are like, what in the hell are you talking about? I know what I'm talking about. You all were like drawing a blank, and I hear you. So I'm trying to be a little bit more concise and simplistic so you can better understand the layers in which I'm sharing this with you and for you. If that makes any sense. So acknowledging this theory and these action steps, like what are your intentions? What are your desires? I believe when you just start this journey, you're going to understand it's a lifelong journey. It's your lifelong path. And I truly believe this is your purpose. This is what we're all here for. We're all here to fully understand ourselves from the inside out. A very different way to see yourself than what's actually going on in the external world. From the external world, it's a materialistic dive into all your senses and materialism and consumption and wanting and competition and all that stuff. That's not what your soul wants at all. That's why so many of us are anxious and overwhelmed and depressed and don't feel like there's meaning, and we're empty and we're desperate for something. I was there. I know. That's the whole tsunami thing. That's why I'm sharing my liberating lessons in the hopes that it helps you kind of come to a better understanding of maybe why you're feeling like this. And these journal prompts will take you to some steps to help you start, peeling back these layers so you can live a wonderful life. And I love the analogy of a wonderful life because it speaks to exactly what I'm here to share in this post today. Living a wonderful life is you being totally you. I mean, look at George Bailey, and I've said this on some other videos, is my intention here is to help one person. Because if I can help one person, that person helps another person and helps another. It's like this domino effect. And how I try to explain this is like we are all part of this tapestry, a collective tapestry. Think of it as, this big, beautiful, loving blanket that covers the world. And we all play a part. We all have a thread in the blanket. So when we're not living up to our true potential, who we really are, our true self, right? There's a thread that gets broken. And when that thread gets broken, there's a disconnect in the tapestry. And it affects all the other threads around that area. And just think of it, if, millions of people aren't connected to themselves and living from their true self and living their own wonderful life. Think about how there's a lot of holes in the tapestry, right? And those holes impact us. So why are we saying, like, if I reach one person, and hopefully that's you, if I reach you today and something shifts in your life, and you take that shift and you use it to go on and better yourself, better your understanding about yourself, trusting in yourself, living more joyfully, you affect everybody. And it's such a beautiful thing. And then you get to do the same thing. So it's a pay it forward thing. Only you're paying it forward with this invisible thread of divinity that sits within you. So you're sharing your meaningful self in a way that positively impacts others in your life. And that, my friend, is a wonderful life and a beautiful way to live. And I have a quote I want to share with you because it really does, it speaks to what I'm talking about in such a beautiful way. And it's a quote from Martha Graham. She was a famous choreographer, and she started her own way of dance, and it influenced American dance, and it still does today. Just Google her. She's a beautiful woman, and her dance style is totally unique to her. So this is what she said. She says, there is a vitality, a life force, that divine spark within, right? That is translated through you into action. So that's what I talk about. I talk about she says, life force. It goes through you into action. I say it's the divine spark within, right? That it expresses itself through your personality into your personal reality so you can take divinely inspired action. So we're saying the same thing here. She says, and because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. I'll reread that because I interrupted the quote. There is a vitality, a life force that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. So you have to understand that about yourself. And this comes from Tosha Silver. It's Not Your Money. She's awesome. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a great author and thinker on spirituality. She's very much focused on what I'm focused on, like trusting that inner God, using your tuition, let it lead your life. Trusting in that divine spark. And I love this book because look at it's earmarked and the pages are all dog-eared, right? But it's something that I go to as a reference tool. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I wrote a book too, and it's called Unpack Your Personality, Let Your Inner Guide Be Your Travel Guide. And I hope if you do decide to get it, that it's not this one and done read. Oh, that was good, I liked it, and then you just move on. I hope too, like you use it as a reference, like I use the Tosha Silver book. I want this book to become a reference because what it does is I go through each individual personality type and I speak to about the illusions and the delusions of life. And it's kind of travel related because I believe travel is the best time to start a spiritual journey, a journey of self-discovery, of self-understanding, self-awareness. Plug in what you're doing, right? If you're on a seeking journey, you're seeking in for those things. But it goes into great depth about Myers-Briggs on a spiritual detour. So I go into your personality traits from a spiritual perspective, and I'm going to talk about that now, because I wrote a blog post, and why this is not like, oh yeah, I know that, I've done the prompts for self-understanding. Well, I'm sharing a different perspective because, like I said, my theory about self-understanding comes from the inside out. It's not reaching for what's in the external world and applying that to yourself. I'm telling you to reach inside yourself and apply that to yourself, then go practice it in the external world. So it's a complete flip. It's 360 degrees of what we've been conditioned to think and believe. So as I go through, and I'm not going to go through all this because this gets too long and you guys are going to be like, quit talking. But as I go through the blog, I do point out And I gave an excerpt from the book. It's chapter 11, I believe, spiritual personality typing for the 21st century. And I just talked to you about traits, and I'm going to talk about the first trait because I think it's very interesting and it's very germane to self-understanding. So let's just talk about traits here for a minute. So in personality typing, in Myers-Briggs personality typing, and let me just tell you why I love Myers-Briggs personality typing. I get all hopped up on this, so I know I need to calm down, but I can't. I love it. But Myers-Briggs, why I love Myers-Briggs is because I think we're just starting to uncrack this theory. Myers-Briggs is, I don't know how to say this, is arranged, is taught in a way that it's very seasonal to your life. So it grows with you. As you evolve and grow, it grows with you. And it's an expansive theory. And that's why I really like it. And why I get really excited is like, I'm starting to realize that when you use it and focus on your spiritual understandings first, that divine spark within you, the all-knowing self that is connected into divine intelligence, which creates worlds, mountains, oceans, universes, planets. I mean, we're all connected into this. Do you know how powerful that is? That is power, man. So get excited about that. We've all been given this gift. Let's all use it. So once we start getting connected into that, you go back into the personality traits. Oh my gosh. And they're so expansive. Just think of, we're thinking of unfortunately, from the stereotypical boxes that we've been conditioned to believe they are. That is not true. That's not true at all. You're not a stereotype. And honestly, you're not your personality type. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And what your personality does, it's an accessory the soul uses to express itself here on the physical plane, right? It's here on Earth School. We're here to learn, grow, and evolve. You don't grow and evolve from being in a linear, relying on a linear personality type. You just don't. You do when you start injecting your divine spark of divinity in it. You do a lot because it changes, it expands your thinking, it expands your feelings, it expands your intuition. It expands your senses beyond the ordinary, into the extraordinary, into the supernatural, into miracles, and into serendipitous moments. It gets really exciting. So, this is Nina Zapala, a place to talk about spiritual personality typing, a roadmap to your true self, just self-understanding, to knowing the great I am within you, that spark of divinity, to know that. So you can live a wonderful life. You can live joyfully. Right? Now, if you want to hear and you want to support my channel, please know that I do. Well, please follow, subscribe, share. I'd really appreciate it. It just lets more people see what I'm talking about. And if you're interested, your friends might be interested. Like attracts like, right? It's one of those laws. And I also do one-on-one sessions, and I get really excited to do one-on-one sessions because they're intimate. And if you're willing, I often get intuitive downloads that I share with you, which is really exciting. Of course, we share your personality type, and we share your personality type from a spiritual understanding. So it starts with, it could be relationships, it could be you're going through a divorce, it could be you're doing a career change, it could be your parents saying, you're like, oh my gosh, I just, this is overwhelming, what do I do? So it's all these things, because what I speak to is connected to everything in your life, because it's you doing you in all the roles we play. And just think, if you do you in all the roles you play, and you're connected to that inner spark within you, the higher aspect of yourself, the self that's unlimited, imaginative, creative, loving, kind, compassionate, the list goes on. Just think what you're going to create in your life. I know, it gets really exciting, right? So just know that I do that. There's a link below. You can just jump on my calendar schedule, and we can chat. So let me get back to this, to what I put into the blog. So you can use these journal prompts in a very constructive manner. And I just believe they're going to be more helpful for you than just a generic, well, what do you like about yourself? Okay, well, if you knew that, you wouldn't be talking to me or listen to this, right? It's hard. It's hard to know yourself. It's not an easy thing. Trust me. It's why I do what I do, because I did not know who I was. I stepped in to the patriarchal paradigm and I totally lost myself for a decade and a half, and it was not fun. So I know it's not easy. So that's why we're here, right? To help each other. People learn from people. So hopefully you'll learn something from me. Back to the stack. So in Myers-Briggs, we have something that's called a functional stack. And what a functional stack is just the order in which you use your traits. It's that simple. That's all it is. So you use one trait as a primary trait and your last trait as an inferior trait. But let's speak to the primary trait. So the primary trait is something I call, from a spiritual perspective, your North Star. Now, that's kind of self-explanatory, right? But your North Star is where you're heading in life. So this is what's cool about personality typing, is it kind of gives you clues. All your traits give you clues into where you might be struggling, where there's some overwhelm, where you don't understand yourself. And starting at the North Star is the logical, practical way to do that. Because that North Star is where your life is heading. It's what you're here for. Your soul needs that to be as healthy as possible, because it's relying on that to create and evolve and transform itself in your life. And it can't do that if you're detached from that. And it can't do that if that trait is fear-based instead of divine-based, right? This is where the self-understanding comes in. And this is what I say, what I'm doing here is a little different, because I want you to understand yourself, and knowing that when the fear is in your life, it's a blocker. It blocks personal growth. It blocks self-understanding. It blocks self-awareness. It disrupts your life. It keeps you stuck. It keeps you spiraling out of control. Right? So fear is, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to be like, but fear is just not a healthy way to live, So we have to be very mindful of that. We have to be mindful that, if you're operating from fear, even doing these journal prompts and all this stuff doesn't help, because you need to start understanding that. So one of the things I tell you to do is go and understand this. And I have little tips, like which part of your personality type you should look at, how this works, how this interacts with this question. Where do you go, right? So I did that with the understanding that to help you understand further how to use these journal prompts to really fully benefit you. And there's 10 of them. So it might take you 10 months to work through this. It's not like, you're one and done with your answer. Oh, it's this, this, and this. And if you do it within like a day, then I'm going to tell you to go back, and I'm going to tell you to go back, and I'm going to tell you to go back, and I'm going to tell you to go back. Because these things aren't just like, okay, it's off my to-do list. That's not what this is for. This is for introspection. If you want to understand yourself, you got to go deep within yourself. And one of the things you're going to uncover is your false self. And that's the self that for me, this is what I did. So I'm just going to use myself as an example because everyone's different. But that's what I found out. When I started getting into that false self, I found out I was lying to myself. And that was the worst, hurting. Even after all the stuff I went through, that was the worst. I know. It was horrible. That why would I lie to myself? You know? I hate lying. But I was doing it. And I was doing it, I thought, to protect myself, to be a part of something, to feel fulfilled, to find the meaning, to find the purpose. And that's not where you're going to find it. You're not going to find it in the external world. And so I was lying to myself. You know? I bought into my own delusions. I wish I called them self-delusions. I bought into that. We all do, at some extent. So, yeah, we need not do that. But, you know, it takes time to look at it because we all do it. There's nobody, I don't think there's anybody on the planet that hasn't done that. Okay, Yeshua, but, you know, and maybe the Buddhists, and there's, you know, there's some yogis out there, yeah. But, you know, for many of us, we do it because we don't know. We're not taught this really cool stuff in life. I wasn't taught this. You know, and I've been wondering why I've been fighting convention my whole life. I've been being dragged into it my whole life, failing miserably because it's not true to me. So you're going to have to figure this out for you, right? I can't figure it out for you. And no matter how many master classes you take, you know, and maybe this master class worked really well for you, and then you're hitting a point where you're like, man, there's still something I'm stuck with. What's going on? It's because you're evolving and you need that extra layer of knowledge and acknowledgement about yourself. So you got to study yourself. That's what I say. It's a lifelong process. Then you're going to get there and you're like, what else is there? Because this gets really exciting because you get on this curious role about yourself because you start seeing like all this cool stuff about yourself. And you're like, wow, that's exciting. I want to go further. I want to go deeper into this. How can I go deeper into this? You know, and it's the study of yourself. So it gets exciting. So there's going to be lots. The journal prompts are all going to be on the blog. I hope you enjoyed this. Of course, have a journal out when you go to, or copy and paste or whatever you want to do for the blog, so you can take these journal prompts and actually start using them. Like me, maybe start out with one a month. And just go through 10 months of it, you know? Maybe there's things you can skip because you're like, I really feel... I wouldn't skip anything right off the bat because I would get in and ask the question and see how it makes you feel. Go inside. Use the prayer that I suggested. My meditative prayer is, Dear Divine, please show me. Then go into the prompt. Be still. Go into the prompt. Sit for a spell. See what brings up. And then start journaling. Okay? That's the way I would do it. But you do you. Just giving you some perspectives that have worked for me. People help people. That's just kind of how it works. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find it beneficial. Like I said, please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all of you that are following me. I love when you comment because it gets me excited because I know that you're thinking now. You're thinking about stuff. And if you can start thinking differently about your life, that's when the changes start to happen. And yes, changes can be scary, they can be difficult, they can be challenging, but no. The challenge is where deep personal growth comes from. And when you get to the other side of the challenge, a whole new life opens up. Then you have another challenge, a whole new life opens up. And you get to another challenge, a whole new life. It's just how it goes. You know, it's just how it is. But I hope you enjoy this. If you want to take advantage of my one-to-one sessions, I can't wait to get on calls with people because I love doing this so much. It's so much fun, and I guarantee you'll learn something. And you will. If if you don't want to do that right now, if you're watching your pennies, $25 or $9.99 on Amazon, right? And this is very helpful. This is very useful, and it'll start you on your journey for sure. And I'm telling you, from the day you pick up the book to reading it through, you will learn something. I guarantee you won't be the same person after you read this. That's what I've been told by some of the reviews. And if you bought the book, please review it. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of, and we'll talk to you next week. All for now, Nina.